So, what'd you think of Riley Leonard's comment? He's making less as a pro than he made in his last year at Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm. NIL.
I think they may have overpaid there.
Yeah. Well, he got us to the national championship, so. I was okay with it.
Yes.
All right. Well, welcome to the May 19th, 2026 Grant County Community Corrections Board meeting. Has everybody had the opportunity to review the minutes?
Move their adoption.
All right, we have a second.
I said.
Who is the second? Make sure. Oh, perfect. Tyson, all right. And the next item on the agenda is the financial report. Okay, oh, yes. Okay, as far as passing the minutes, thank you, Chris. Do we have, in favor of passing the minutes, say aye. Those saying nay. All right, unanimously pass the minutes. And then we have our financial reports.
Yeah, the financial reports are in your packet. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Everything is running pretty true to form. Just to remind you, in years past, we did not get a 25% advance payment that we would get. So now that we're getting that advance payment, the accounts are in the positive. So, but I'll answer any questions you might have about any of the budgets. If you don't have any, then.
Do you have any questions regarding the financial reports? Hearing no questions, do we have a motion to accept the financial reports?
So moved.
All right, Ms. Spitzer, we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. You and Judge Meeks, I think, are.
So we keep up company.
All right, and as far as in favor of the accepting the financial reports, say aye. And those saying nay, say nay. All right, of the approval of the financial reports have been passed. Our next meeting is Tuesday, August 11th, 2026. It's at noon. It's here in the county council chambers. And then new business staff spotlights.
Yes, thank you, Judge. So I sent an email. So one of the things that I know Melissa and I were talking about was all the great staff that we have, and that many of them are doing so many different jobs, but you as a board and local advisory council don't get to hear or see much about any of those. And so one of the things that our school corporation does is staff spotlights. And it has really, I guess, invigorated our community and, you know, our school board, watching those individuals that people talk about that do the hard work. You know, believe it or not, I'm just not a pretty face. There are a lot of people who do a lot of great work that are in the community corrections and probation under court services. So in doing that, we looked at selecting someone, talked with our chair and vice chair about that idea, and they wholeheartedly endorsed it. So we're going to take an opportunity. Most meetings, we'd like to do two, one from probation, one from community corrections, that are all doing work within court services. But today, one of those wasn't able to be here, so we're going to move that to our next meeting. But Melissa is going to talk about one of the individuals that we have that we wanted to recognize, and of course, going to take a long look around the room. You can figure out there's only maybe one or two here of who that could be. So I'll let Melissa take it from here.
So, we're gonna talk about, this is Andrew Martin, he's, with Court Services. He joined our team back in January of 24 as the treatment coordinator, and this position is, has played a vital role in effectively utilizing the opioid settlement funds. And this really helps to expand access to treatment and recovery support for justice-involved individuals here in Grant County. And through his work, he has been helping address substance use issues, reduce jail stays, and increase meaningful access to care within our community. So as a treatment coordinator, Andrew supports treatment and recovery courts as well. He serves as a liaison between residential treatment providers and individuals involved in the justice system. So in 2025 alone, he facilitated placements for, I believe it was 72 individuals on community supervision to residential treatment services. And these placements often occurred quickly enough to either significantly reduce jail stays or kind of divert them from jail at all. So this is really looking at people who are saying, I need assistance. How do I get to services? And so his role is to help them get there as fast as possible. And he does a fantastic job at doing that, sometimes within hours, right? So if they're sitting in our office and they need more services than what they're getting here locally, then we have those ability. So he serves kind of as a networker between multiple different sites throughout the state. And so understanding which site works best with individuals. And so highly skilled in that area to help kind of get people not only just to treatment, but to the right places as well. And so, and the research consistently demonstrates the closer we get this intervention, that the closer that it occurs to the crisis, the greater likelihood for positive outcomes. And his ability to respond efficiently and connect individuals to treatment in a timely manner increases the likelihood of long-term recovery, which reinforces rehabilitation over incarceration. So in addition to coordinating treatment placements, he also works closely with community partners and assists individuals in securing transitional housing opportunities, including sober living homes. So a lot of times people need to be placed in sober living homes, sometimes as a result of going to residential and needing a way to transition back into the community. And in 25 alone, he secured 52 of those placements as well within our community through those sober living homes and really helping to create some stability and support during the recovery process. So he's also made some significant impacts through the things that are happening at Court Services through our in-house groups. And these are skill building groups. He actually ended up providing 905 additional interventions that are skill building opportunities for clients at no cost to our participants. And these groups look at a wide range of criminogenic needs. So these are looking at managing my emotions, my coping skills, my healthy relationships, my healthy thinking, my life skills, responsible thinking, maintaining positive changes. And so in addition to these in-house groups, he has dramatically expanded our agency's ability to deliver evidence-based and cognitive behavioral interventions. So since he's joined the team in 2024 as part of this initiative that we've been pushing forward with in-house groups, what we've seen is a 349% increase in services that we've provided just simply through the in-house groups. And while these groups are facilitated by Andrew and additional probation officers as well throughout Court Services, Andrew's responsible for about a quarter of them that are happening. So outcomes, we look at data, right? So these are great information to know, but we also look at outcomes. How well are we doing with these things? And so we do some pre-post tests to measure, are we making an effective difference? So things looking specifically at Andrew's outcome, it has been especially meaningful. So based on pre and post tests that we've collected and the groups that Andrew has facilitated, particularly ones that we're seeing most meaningful are managing my emotions, my coping skills, and my healthy thinking showed notable strong gains. And so what is important here is many of the participants demonstrated greater improvements in what's called behavioral functioning than they did in cognitive scores alone. which this indicates that participants are not only understanding the material and the skills that are being taught, but are actively applying them. Right, and so to their daily lives and making measurable behavior changes. So his outcome data reflects a consistent ability to drive meaningful change and support long-term growth and recovery among people that are involved in the justice system. So he brings a lot of qualities to the table, and that we are very grateful for, very thankful for. And so we just want to take the time to say, kind of acknowledge all the things that's been happening over, especially like the last year, but also since he's been here since 24. And kind of give that feedback as a result of, I know sometimes people are wondering how opiate settlement funds are being spent. And this is one of the areas where it is being spent in that way. And not only is it just being spent that way, we are seeing behavioral gains, differences in how people choose to behave as a result of the work that's happening here. So definitely something that we wanted to spotlight, and some of his favorite things are in here. So just wanted to take the moment to just kind of honor him and the work that he's doing and the impact that it has on our community. So if you would join me, I'd like to clap for him and give him. We expect a speech. No, just kidding.
I prepared some, but I left it in my car.
I thought you might say my dog ate it.
That might be true.
My dog's not in my car.
The windows are down, right?
Gotta be considerate.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa. It's been a good time, really. I get it. It's cool seeing, people that I helped get into, residential, and they come out and start buying houses and their lives.
You come to a reentry court meeting, or reentry court, and you come to court, and Andrew sits in the back. And it's like a, bee to honey kind of thing. They all like get over around him and they're telling him what they're doing, what's going on with them, what happened with them in treatment. And so it's been a really boon for our problem solving courts with what he's been able to do. So we really appreciate it.
But the other thing I like to say about Andrew, he's a graduate of our drug court program. So he's had people clap for him before, right? I think it's neat just for us to be able to I feel like we kind of grow up from our program, and then have people then come work for us. I think that's really great. He brings a lot of credibility because he's been there and done that. And he has the ability to talk to somebody and say, hey, I've done this, and you can do it too. And here's how. He's also, in addition to the things that, Melissa talked about, he's also helped to facilitate our alumni group as well. And so I think if you can think of good ways to spend your opioid dollars, this is like, one of the best ways to do that. And we had started paying for Andrew in a grant and then transitioned over in that way through the opioid funds. And so that was a really, I think, a great way to, try something out. And then when it worked, then to continue it as well. And so he's a very valuable part of our drug court team and a valuable part of probation, community corrections team as well, court services team as well, too.
Thanks, Judge.
Yep, absolutely. Although he is a Michigan fan because his son goes to University of Michigan. So other than that, good guy.
Do you foresee him helping once we get the pretrial home detention, coordinating the treatment with
So-
people also?
The beauty of a unified system is that Andrew is willing to help wherever, right? And so if it's like, there are a lot of times where he just walks down the hallway and then like our staff, our probation officers are like, hey, I've got to have this meeting with this person and I put them on your calendar, here's what's going on with them, and he'll say, okay, I'll get it taken care of, right? And so he sometimes can't walk down the hallway without getting somebody saying, hey, I have this person who needs help right now. And he's really good at doing that. I anticipate that same character being available as we look at, if someone needs to do pretrial home detention and then, or services and then pretrial home detention, I could see that.
That probably will be happening a lot.
Because I think there are times where, Andrew also does that when they're incarcerated in jail too, so, he can facilitate, those, kind of those handoffs to the places that they need to be, so I anticipate that, he's just a great resource all around, so.
I will, just for everyone's information, the courts, especially in the past year, Judge Spitzer, I know, has been doing it for a couple of years, but the courts are very good about when someone needs help, rather than sitting in jail, they're very good about going to Advil and getting them placed so they can receive the treatment that they need and they're not taking up the jail spaces. Been invaluable.
Agreed.
All right, well, thank you, Andrew. That has been the highlight of my day, hearing that, and that's an inspiration. So thank you for everything that you're doing. That certainly had an impact on me hearing that, so thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda, DOC updates.
Yes.
DOC updates.
Yeah, so we've got, we're kind of in a lull situation right here now because we're waiting on funding recommendations for 2027. Our 2025 audit is in progress. They have all of our information, so we'll wait to hear from them. But on June 26th at the state JRAC meeting, they will be releasing our calendar year 2027 funding. I am expecting, as well as other counties around the state are expecting cuts again in grants because of the lack of the funding in the finding and budget. So as you recall, last time jail treatment was eliminated. And so I'm cautiously optimistic that they will view us on many of the areas that they selected as contributors to the funding formula. But at the same time, I'm a little worried. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep you informed. For us, we are a lucky county in that we've been good stewards with our fees that we had come in. And so we hope to weather the storm until new funding would become available in the next budget. So anyway, that's an update for you. Answer any questions that you might have. And then the last thing I had is just there's the reports that we have in your packet. And then there's a document in there that Judge Spitzer is going to talk about at the end. I think it's the last page, but our Senate Rolled Act 9 report is in there. And also we're going to talk about here in a little while, Jess's annual report for pretrial will be in there as well. So that's it for that item, Judge.
Any further questions for Chris regarding our DOC updates? Mr. Spitzer, did you want to talk about the last page? Is that what Chris said?
Yeah, I can, if we'd like, if that's,
Part of this discussion, is it not, or?
yeah, it can be.
Yeah, it can be. It was the last item on the agenda, but we can go ahead and do it now.
Yeah, so we were selected by the state to benefit, if we wanted to participate in a study called the Indiana Criminal Case Flow Management Project. It's no cost to us other than we just kind of sit in on meetings. It's administered by the National Center for State Courts, who is you might think of them as kind of one of those good government organizations that exist to try and help educate state courts, work on efficiencies, things like that, best practices. And so one of the things that they can do is that they can help with criminal case flow management. In other words, how to get cases moving efficiently through the criminal system. And so the judges have said yes to participating in that project, and also the state and public defender as well. And so the purpose of it is to get an understanding of case management practices across different court environments in Indiana by profiling 3 selected courts. So we'll be one of 3 courts in Indiana to identify and document local case management strategies and processes, and then identify best practices and factors influencing effective case management. So what could happen as a result of the technical assistance that we'll receive is that they'll give us some suggestions after they study our case management process on how we might become more efficient at moving cases through the system. And then the other thing that will happen is that their experience with us will inform best practices in Indiana about how to do a good job at moving your cases through the system. And so, we kind of viewed it as a win-win. We get free technical assistance. It could really help us speed things up. And then we get to, as we often do, inform the state on best practices too. So I'm looking forward to it. It'll be interesting. We've just communicated our willingness to be on board just, I think, this week. I returned the email, and so should learn something more. Judge Mary DeBoer from the Indiana Court of Appeals is kind of facilitating that. And so I expect to hear back from her within the next couple of weeks as the other 2 courts or other 2 counties say yes, and then we'll figure out where we go from there. So we'll report in the future.
All right. Any questions for Judge Spitzer regarding the Indiana Criminal Case Flow Management Project? And that's something the judges have been in discussion about. I'm looking back at our multiple email correspondence in regards to this issue, and it is something the judiciary is excited about participating in, and we'll look forward to assisting any way we can.
Yeah, I mean, really, we've kind of been working on it some ourselves, and so to get somebody else to come in and help, I'm interested to hear what they have to say.
All right. I don't know that we need to take any action on that. All right. And so I think Jess is going to help us with the next one, pretrial home detention update.
No, it's down under the local advisory council, Judge. It's the pretrial home detention.
Oh,
That's
gotcha.
what will be funding.
Perfect. Okay. Well, then number 3 is pretrial home detention update.
Thank you. So, our 2 staff are hired, that we have. We've hired, Julie Autry, who will be our pretrial probation officer. And Sydney Bailey will be the GPS support staff person. And, so we're excited about that to start. So all you don't get all excited, now you're gonna send us a referral on Tuesday. We gotta make sure that we get them trained first, but, we hope to have that done pretty soon. The rest of this, Melissa and Jess have been working really hard. If you know me, I work in the sentenced world. And so doing something pretrial, is really not in my wheelhouse. So Melissa and Jess have worked really hard on putting together, policies, practices, referral forms. So I'm gonna, do you want to talk about it any more about any of that?
Yeah, so we are at a really pretty good spot where we've adjusted everything to look at how do you merge best practice standards between the 2 worlds, and then looking at kind of finalizing. We basically, the last thing I think we really need to finalize is a few things about the rules, and then send everything off we have to have judicial review for all the 100 documents I sent you.
And hot off the presses.
It was 9. It was only 9 documents.
We have the 9 documents. We're actually gonna meet next Wednesday
27th.
morning on the 27th. And so we've got them all. We're looking at them and should be able to get you answers after that meeting next Wednesday morning. So we're moving
Yeah.
pretty quickly.
So the policy is done for the most part. I mean, we could have some additional feedback and some adjustments, but the framework is already there. The paperwork that needs to be with the courts is already developed, and we could change all of those a little bit, but most of the legwork is done. So when they start on Tuesday, we'll be able to kind of start the training process. We've already taken a look at the out-of-county report. There are people that initially, on first glance, look like they might meet the criteria. So as soon as we have things kind of finalized, we could be starting that process fairly quickly. And that's what we wanted. We wanted to have the structure ready for the new person. So when they start, we could, kind of start moving through that process. So it'll be one of those things where they are training in the midst of it all, right? And so some things we need to train them on, and then other things we're all gonna be learning together because it's a new program. So, but we have, kind of the policies ready, the, 90-day court reports that are gonna be going out, to the attorneys and the courts, so that they can kind of get a progress of how well have they done while they were, on the program. And then, I think there was discussion about the hope for those cases to be resolved fairly quickly within that timeframe as well. So really looking at addressing it for multiple at different layers of the justice system. So really trying to figure out how do we address the jail overcrowding, and then also kind of work in the case processing and things like that. So
I think the intention was that once somebody gets on it, that there'd be a hearing set in 90 days, a status hearing in all the courts. And so we'll talk about at our meeting how we can make sure we facilitate that happens. So that, we do have an action point that everybody's shooting for. So, yeah.
yeah, so we tried to put some of that into kind of what our expectations is for the probation officer as well, in terms of like attending that hearing. And so if it gets kind of forgotten, then they'll bring up that 90-day hearing as well. So to help kind of as a safety, kind of as a safeguard there too as well. So just kind of hot off the press, right? So we were finalizing things yesterday with it, yesterday afternoon.
This referral process been outlined yet?
Yes. So we looked at, kind of the idea is how do we rule people in rather than ruling them out? And so I think there's like seven different pathways to get here. So a lot of it will, some of it can be attorney driven, some of it can be from the jail, some of it can be with, what we're seeing in pretrial. Some of it can be seen as, if somebody's on probation and they have a new arrest, but they have a probation violation for a new arrest, how do we get them?
So if we want to refer someone, do we first need to get prosecutor consent? Will there be a hearing? How will all that happen?
So right now, the way that it's set is, but this will be up for their approval, but really the thought would be.
There being the judges?
Yes, so it would be more of you would make contact with the probation officer, they would start the eligibility.
Probation officer being Julie?
Yes, so they would be doing the review process, and so then if they are eligible, then that would basically set
Did
up
we
for a
request
hearing. Yes.
Julie said request the hearing.
Julie would be requesting the hearing, and then at that hearing, it would be decided what happens.
Gotcha.
And then the 90-day review hearing would be set at that
And
time.
then the other process too with that, David, for the coming on, the process also would be to inform back to the client and the public defender, if they did qualify, what needs to be fixed in order for that to happen. So it's like,
Gotcha.
well, I'm sorry, you can't live here, but these are the places where you
So
could
similar
live.
rules to home detention.
Yes, yeah. Well,
Much lighter.
much, yeah, I would call it home detention light. Yeah, I would call it that. So it.
Because
Will you at some point have the criteria? We could get to the attorneys, maybe get it to Judge Spitzer, he could decide.
we stuck pretty true to the criteria that the work group came up with a couple of months ago. So we didn't make any major revisions to any of
Is
this.
this gonna be GPS monitored?
Same units we use for regular.
Yeah, so if they're they could be in a treatment home and still be eligible? Like Hope House, that kind of thing?
No, probably.
Sober living.
Summer living, yeah, sorry.
Sober living,
Sober
if it's
living, I'm
in,
sorry.
if it's in Grant County, yes.
If it's in Grant County, fine.
Mhm.
And
Not residential is what you're getting. at.
Yes, yes, that's what.
that's residential, generally, we can go to the court, ask to go to residential,
Yeah.
and then go into
Yeah,
this
that's
later.
where Andrew's skills come in.
Right,
Yeah.
Judge Spitz, we've done that many times already, so.
But normally those people, if that's the case and they're willing to do that and the court's willing to do it, I don't know that they necessarily need to be on monitor.
Yeah, that's true too.
So, I mean, we're talking about people who represent a risk to the community, but are willing to accept conditions to be able to be released. So most of those, you guys do a great job. Judges all do a great job. If they need treatment, we're gonna let them go. And,
Right.
They're gonna go to residential and then bring
Was
it
the
back.
decision
Then when they
made
come
on-
back, oftentimes what we're looking about is resolving the case in a way that puts them on probation and reinforces the aftercare.
And our hope would
So we wouldn't
be,
need home detention for that necessarily. Yeah.
our hope would be of any of these that we put on pretrial in that 90-day review, if we can get them employment, then, and they can obtain that, then we can transition them. Our hope would be public defenders and prosecutor would work to resolve that quickly so that they could again come on standard home detention. So that, again, this is we keep talking about warm handoffs. All our systems is just in silos. So
Standard,
trying to get them to work together.
standard home detention
Post.
Post.
well, so the other question I had then is if they're not paying for it pre, the client's not.
Correct. But once they get employed, they have a
So,
place to live.
but if the case is still not resolved and they get employed, will they then pay themselves?
No, they will only pay. when
All
they-
pre,
Everybody free there would be no, that we're not charging a fee because again, they're not convicted.
right,
So if they're not convicted, cause there's a lot of situations out here where people have charged people a fee for pretrial and for home detention and have had to reimburse those funds because, I know there's at least 3 or 4 counties that have had to do that because of the process. So that's part of the reason we're not. But our hope is that you would then advocate with and work with the prosecutor on a plea agreement that would say, now we can move more quickly to them being released because they have employment and they have a place to live.
And that's why we want to expedite the cases because we're paying.
Exactly.
Right.
and that should absolutely happen.
And the goal should be to resolve the case if possible within the 90 days.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Then you can put someone else on it.
And then when we reach that 90-day review, we can say they have the things that they need to do, and maybe during that period of time, they've already submitted an application to home detention, at which point we can then move them out of our jail or out of the satellite jail we're holding them in and back into the community and put them back on, paying taxes and on the rolls where they need to be.
The thing I think that's brilliant about this is it's gonna give the individual the chance to prove to the state and to the court that they're serious about their treatment and following rules. That will make everybody feel much better about them potentially not being incarcerated. In other words, they're gonna be lower risk to reoffend, so it's a great concept.
So part of that's access to care sooner, right? So we're speeding up the process to get them into services, which shows that the closer we can get to the crisis, the more likely they are to stay.
That's why I asked you earlier if Andrew would be available to
Yes.
help with that, because there is a little bit of a gap sometimes in people who are not put on probation yet on obtaining those services for them beforehand, before they're sentenced, before they're put on probation. So this will help with that too.
So there's also, in terms of, since they aren't sentenced yet, it would be voluntary services. So it would be advantageous for them to get those services because all that information about, being referred to services, yes, what services, and then are they attending? And if it's yes, if they've been referred, but no, they're not attending, that comes through the 90-day report. That's gonna go to the courts and the attorneys. If they are, then they would be able to have some information about how well are they doing in these services. And so, it's
So Melissa's point is that you guys
have a,
want to have a conversation with or you let your PDs know
Yeah.
that, hey, it's going to be reported whether you're voluntarily
Right.
attending or not, and that could impact, how your case goes moving forward. So just making sure that PDs or the defense attorneys know to have that conversation.
And I'm a lot more interested in voluntary than I am court ordered. Because voluntary means that you're serious about it. you know, and being court ordered. I don't know if we are serious about it or not. So this is one of the most exciting creative, you know, programs that I've been a part of. And so I'm excited about it. Now, there's 30, correct? With the possibility of increasing the number to 60. I read everything that you sent.
Yeah, so the goal is 30. And, you know, as we make these adjustments and seeing how well that fits, because it's, if it works the way that we hope that it will, it would be more like a revolving door opportunity. 90 days in, next person, you know, and so to manage a wait list and keep that stuff kind of organized, it will take a significant amount of work, but the thought would be if it works well and it's having meaningful impacts, that we could look at another person to be able to maybe be assigned to take the other 30.
And the only thing
Yeah.
with that I want to understand is that this person just doesn't exist in a silo, so there are other staff, Jess being one, and others who are putting in time and effort to make this work. So I would encourage people to look at it as like, well, okay, it's like one more person for this for pretrial, but that also stresses the rest of the people who are in the system that are also contributing to that work. So our hope is that that just ends up being one more position, but it might be other areas that need to be supported in the system so we can expand it.
Right, but with the foundation that you are innocent until proven guilty, what we want, I think, in this program is folks that want to voluntarily get services. So if you're not wanting to voluntarily get services, this really isn't the program for you.
And the other thing I guess I would say when I think David said brilliant idea, this was a think tank part of the jail alternatives work group. So it's all of us sitting in a room saying, okay, what can we do?
Yep.
From judges to prosecutors, you know, counsel, commissioners, everyone that could participate, sat in that room and said, okay, what could we do? So it was a team effort to like come up with this. So I say that at the same time to say, if we have issues or problems that happen, we have things that might happen in the community with somebody that is on this program, let's take that into consideration. This is our best effort to be able to try and help the system, but also help people.
All right, any other discussion? Very exciting topic. Pretrial home detention update. Anything else? All right. Local Advisory Council Detention Center Jail Overcrowding Work Group update. I don't see Commissioner Poling or Sheriff Garcia here.
Sheriff's on vacation, I think, won't be back till the 26th, so he's got to pass.
All right. I think without either one of those two participants, we'll move on. Jail Alternatives Work Group, Judge Spitzer, Sheriff Garcia again, and I think we've kind of discussed this.
Yeah, I don't think there's any, I don't know that there's anything to add really to what, to the discussion we've already had at this point.
I think we're anxious, once we start getting this going and getting data, coming back and then reporting to the group.
Yeah.
Right, and it's an evolving process, and we can tweak it along the way. All right,
Sure.
so pretrial policy team annual report updates, Melissa, Jess, and Mike.
Yeah, so within the packet that Chris has, there is the 2025 annual report for pretrial services. Now, this is pretrial release services, which is separate from pretrial home detention. So within that report, we submit an annual report to the state each year. The first couple pages there, just to summarize, it's a lot of our operational framework. So it's a lot of our policy procedure, how the program is implemented. Further on, it does note milestones and strategic developments. So some noteworthy points within there is pretrial services has continued to participate with George Mason University for the study of intentional pretrial supervision. And so that's a study that we've been participating in for almost 8 years. It did conclude at the beginning of this year, but this was the study of how we can better implement services within our pretrial release appointments. Judge Spitzer continued to serve on the Indiana Bail Commission and serve as the chair of the state for the pretrial release committee. I've continued to serve as the co-chair for the Indiana Pretrial Coordinator Committee for the state of Indiana and also the Indiana Pretrial Data Subcommittee. And then our program agency also completed our first process evaluation in 2025. And those are required every 3 years for any agencies that are certified through the state. So we completed our first one, and I believe we were the first county to submit ours through the state also. Next, I'm just gonna kind of summarize a lot of the data. It's a very data-heavy report. As a certified agency, we are required to submit extensive data reporting through the state. And so just to summarize some of the key ones here, looking at our average length of stay. So that is the average length of stay of individuals that are assessed for pretrial release. For 2025, individuals were incarcerated for an average of 13 days compared to the counter population of 91 days. And so individuals released to pretrial supervision were incarcerated on average 13 compared to 91 for everyone else. Over 2025, we we screened 1,054 cases that were booked into the jail. We completed over 570 assessments on individuals. And then we had over 190 individuals that were released to pretrial supervision, and that's formal pretrial supervision. Since 2019, we have supervised over 1,100 participants under pretrial supervision. Our appearance rate is something that we've noticed a substantial increase in over the years. In 2024, the appearance rate for our individuals was at 87%. In 2025, our appearance rate was 93%. So 93% of our supervised clients did not miss a single court hearing during the full duration of their case, whether their case was a month long or 5 years long, they did not miss any court hearings. Our overall success rate has reached 61% for supervised individuals compared to 46% in 2024. And so success rate is defined as individuals that did not have any technical violations, new offenses, and did not miss any scheduled court hearings. So 61% completed what we consider as a perfect supervision. Return to incarceration, this is something that we definitely track. So of individuals that were released to pretrial supervision, how many individuals returned to incarceration on a new offense? And in 2022, we averaged about 50% of our individuals were returning on new offenses to the jail. In 2025, we're down to 20% have returned to incarceration. And so that's showing that individuals on pretrial supervision are not committing and being charged with as many new offenses, if any. Not included in the annual report, but it will be included in next year's annual report, is our no new violent offense tracking. And so this was just implemented at the beginning of this year. That's why it was not included in 2025. But the new data collection for the violent offense tracking indicates that our agency rate is 99%. So of our individuals that have completed supervision this year, only 1% have committed a new violent offense. So 99% remain violent offense free for their supervision. So that's a lot of the data. It's very data heavy report. If you have any questions on the data, you can always reach out to me. Otherwise, the only other update I have for pre-trial release is our policy team meeting. We did meet last week. We had started this discussion on our target population and some possible changes that might be brought to that. We are planning on continuing that conversation at our next policy team meeting that is tentatively scheduled for July. I'm just waiting on a few more responses to get that in the books. So if you received an email, if you could please respond for what date would work best for July for that meeting.
And there were extra stars in our permanent record for those that showed for the last
There
policy.
was, yes, prize drawing for that one.
Yes. We want to participate in future prize drawings.
Yes.
We can maybe come up with some more of those cups and some,
Yeah.
and that,
Zero, that's good stuff.
Any questions for Jess? That's great. Thank you, Jess, for sharing.
I kind of had a comment and I know the sheriff isn't here today, but the thing I kept hearing about our jail being overcrowded and everything is our recidivism rate. And so with this return to incarceration decreasing so much compared to 2022 to 2025, I mean, from 50% to 20%, I mean, that's fantastic. So that, again, you know, making progress. And these are all small steps. And again, it takes that collaboration, working together, not the silo. And it's a lot of work that, you know, I certainly don't see on that daily basis, but I just want to applaud everybody involved because I know it takes a lot of work to have these things happen and I appreciate everybody's efforts. So thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Greg.
One question, just, do you know why our appearance and success rates have improved?
One thing we did implement over probably the almost 2 years now is for individuals that report in to meet with us, we're providing them an additional paper slip that has their next court date. They do all receive text reminders. Unfortunately, with our population, sometimes they don't always have the most consistent phone numbers or way to access text numbers. And so we didn't want them to just rely on getting that text message. And so each meeting, whether they're doing a check-in form or an office appointment, they're also receiving a very brightly colored orange piece of paper that has their next court date on it. And so I don't want to say that's the single contributing factor to that rise in court appearances, but that is definitely where we started noticing the trend of our appearance rate going up.
Maybe a better class of criminals.
Great idea.
And just there's also the pilot that talks about like meaningful supervision contacts.
Yes.
That's happening currently.
It actually just
Finished,
concluded,
yeah.
yep, we just, I wanna say it was February that we had our final meeting, we're still waiting on the data outcomes for that. But that was for more intentional supervisions, and so individuals that do come in and meet with us face to face, it's how can we better serve them? How can we better provide warm handoffs, getting them to meet with Andrew all the time, which a lot of our clients meet with Andrew also. And so having just the more intentional, not condition-based meeting, not ordering of services, but more warm handoffs and referrals, and kind of digging in a little bit deeper with what may better serve them at those appointments.
So the how you communicate is part of that focus too. Absolutely. Almost a therapeutic alliance kind of thing that they, yeah. Interesting.
Anything else for Jess? Hearing nothing, we'll move on to our member reports. We've got the public defender.
Not much going on in the public defender world. As you guys may or may not know, Mr. Elliott is moving towards retirement and starting July 1, he will be transitioning from Chief Deputy. David Payne will be taking his place, and then he'll move to juvenile court till the end of the year, and then I think he's gonna walk away. So there's another public defender. It looks like there's gonna be an opening. As rumor has it, she's gonna head to Blackford County and take over Chief Deputy. They had a new prosecutor elected over there, so there could be up to 2 potential openings. We think we have one of them filled, so we'll just leave one, but seems to be going pretty smoothly from the public defender perspective. I'm not hearing any complaints from anyone, so I think it's working well.
Now, wait a minute. You're not hearing any complaints from attorneys?
From public defender attorneys. Not from clients.
He said he's not hearing any complaints from anybody else is because he's not listening.
Whoever had to talk to David.
Yeah.
How many times
No, you
you
get
get
it.
up?
Yeah.
So-
Thank you. Sorry.
I can't believe they're picking on you, David.
That's all right. I don't mind.
He wears it well.
All right, I don't want to miss anybody, but I don't think we have anybody from prosecutor's office here. Radiant Health?
I'm Jenna York. I'm subbing for Stacy. Did not know I needed to bring any information. But we are doing same day access every day. We'll soon have a therapist 7 days a week. So there should not be a gap. Like if somebody comes in on a Sunday and wants services, they should be able to get right in. Crisis is still responding to calls consistently. We've been kind of busy with Eastbrook Schools and First Farmers Bank right now, providing grief and counseling support for them. I think Carrie Seacrest is starting a new group at our addictions building. I think it's for, if I remember, I almost texted her and asked, it's either for just alcohol use or just marijuana use.
Marijuana.
Okay. Yep, confirmation. We have a lot of stuff going on, and it's all funneling through me clinically, so I'm trying to keep it on track. So that, should be starting soon, and she's, feels, when she's kind of staffing those cases, they're not appropriate for the other groups, and so I said, it's our goal, we have the staff, let's create something for them, so that should be starting soon. We have a staff now, I believe, soon to, or is at the court doing intakes for family recovery court, so we can get them in the door sooner, quicker.
Yeah, today was this first day.
Okay, great.
Doing
I knew it was starting, I wasn't sure on the official start
Yeah.
date, so.
We appreciate that too. Thank you.
It showed up. It's a
Hey.
big picture in today's
Great,
world.
yeah. Well, that's good.
All right, thank you for the update. Marion Health Task Force. Marion Police Department, I don't believe we have a representative. Grant County Sheriff, I don't believe we have a representative. Grant County Court Services, Community Corrections and Probation.
You got all my.
Yeah.
Right.
So one of the big things that we're doing now is we had a really great opportunity with a practicum student who has really helped us align with what data collection we're really wanting to get. And it's allowing us to push out surveys to individuals at various points in the justice system. So for reentry court, we're getting feedback for people every other month. So we're not waiting until they're successful or not successful to get feedback. We're capturing more real time their experience in the program. We're similarly doing something like that in drug court as well at phase advancement. But we're also doing what's called meeting rating scales. So after every appointment, the client gets a QR code to scan, and so they get to rate. It's like maybe 5 questions about how, what their experience was with their supervision officer. And so we're able to kind of monitor that to help us say, are we aligning the right people with the right skills with the right clients that they're working with? And so kind of taking a deeper dive, and then also getting their feedback if something we're doing isn't working, or if we have different training needs, maybe we're missing the mark on something. And so we have piloted this with some of the problem-solving courts, and we're getting ready to kind of open that across the board for all of court services to gather client feedback, but we're also doing them in addition to the pre-post test in groups, but we're also doing them incrementally in those in-house groups that we're offering as well, just to see from their perspective how things are going, to help us have more feedback about what we think is working. Is it really working? And is it having a meaningful impact? And use that to help us guide future trainings, the way that we do kind of business in general there. So I'm really excited about it because it's some data that we've been wanting to capture for a long time. The timing just wasn't right, and now it is. So we've actually had some really great positive responses, and it's helpful for our staff to see those things too. Because sometimes the work is, not sometimes, it's always draining, right? And so when you're listening and working with people, sometimes it takes more and more emotional and mental effort. And so them getting feedback in terms of things that are meaningful for them is also helpful for staff as well. So that's going to be kind of a big data set for us. We've had to work with IT because we've already crashed one of the programs. So we had to kind of work through, because the data was so large. And so we just anticipate getting more and more information. And that's a huge component of evidence-based practices, is measuring your practices and giving that feedback. And so we're just taking more advanced steps in that process now, so.
Appreciate that update. I do not see one of our 3 commissioners. We do have a council member, Mr. Kitts.
Yes, I did get a email from Mr. Middlesworth because he's gonna come to our council meeting tomorrow night. And one of those requests is for, he showed, the invoice was sent to me. And I don't know why, but the brakes is what it says for the elevator, roughly $40,000. But it says 26-week lead time, which is ridiculous. And I'm hearing that they're in Europe. I would think, FedEx, UPS, I don't know if they have to make them, or what the situation is, but I'm certainly gonna press them. Because I had a client this morning, who was there and he did have to stop after the second floor. And he's actually lost a lot of weight. He made it a point to say, I've lost 30 pounds and this is taxing. And he said, my goodness, it's certainly taxing on everybody that works in this building. We certainly, want to see that gets fixed as soon as possible. The other thing, I had a couple of members wanting me to put on the agenda for a jail discussion, so we're gonna have a jail discussion tomorrow night as well. I feel like the council is leaning more toward, no new facility, but what they're looking at is, does anybody want to utilize this facility, the former juvenile detention facility? And it would be a discussion, I feel like, anybody from this group that might want to be a part of that, it might even start with a tour of that facility, to just look it over. Or if it's something where people say, no, it doesn't really matter, we don't want to do that. I'm gonna say the cost, might be about the same as shipping them out of county. The issue I feel like that we have is the risk, when we're on the road, certainly inclement weather, but then also just driving and having to do that. And also, I certainly am not in favor of government creating jobs, but it would be jobs downtown, because we would hire more jailers, who would be here. And that way too, then we don't have to worry about, okay, where is this person? If we want to try and do pretrial home detention or something like that, okay, they're here. So there's some savings that can be done there. There's, nothing on paper for that, but I feel like it's a decision though that should be made by the group and not necessarily made by just the commissioners alone or just the council, or those two groups together. Because I feel like it takes buy-in for everybody. Again, we have to have a collaborative effort if we're gonna accomplish what we need to do, and is it beneficial, to the community to do that? So I'm certainly open to any ideas or suggestions. I had emailed Judge Spitzer about it and kind of talked to him and,
And I did share that with my colleagues too, Greg, and we are willing to sit down and talk
Yeah.
for that as well. I mean, I think generally my thoughts are that it's preferable to have people here than in Tipton County and in Fulton County by a large measure. And so we would much rather have, and we've been advocating for kind of redoing that facility over there for years. And so,
Okay.
we kind of are on board with
Yeah.
that part of it, but willing to discuss the specifics in a committee, so.
Well, that'd be great. I can send out.
Everybody said yes, they would.
No, yeah, we're all supportive
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
discussing that item.
Okay, that'd be great, and we'll try and get, people from probation, sheriff's department, as well as the prosecutor, just things like that. I feel like, again, it's collective, community decision. I feel like we'll certainly make a better decision if we're all sitting at the table and open to anybody's ideas. I feel like we need to try and explore it, if we can save some money and maybe help save some people, within our community, because we certainly have a lot of issues going on. But thank you. Appreciate your time, and any questions anybody's got for me, I'm always, willing to try to answer them. If I can, I'll look them up and get back to you.
Greg, I don't know if this is more of a commissioner's thing than a council thing, but as I walk into the courthouse and the elevator doesn't work and there's caution tape on the other door that they just created for us to go in and out of, and then we've got these big mud bogs right next to there that were supposed to be, and then they've removed all of the landscaping, and that's just kind of a bunch of weeds and things like that. I think it looks like crap. So, I don't know if there's a better way. So I'm wondering where we are in that process of, and that may be more of a, not fair to give to you than, and more of a commissioner's thing. And I understand there's money to be spent on other things, but, and I guess we're gonna redo the floor again down on the the ground floor as well too. and
Trying to
that's
fix
scheduled for
it.
some
They were talking
time.
about the epoxy. I was in there one day and they
It
said
looks like-
somehow
yeah,
it got sticky or something and so they were gonna redo that. I actually did encourage one of the commissioners and I said, really, if you're gonna make changes at the courthouse, I said, why not talk to the people in the courthouse and get a list of priorities? And, that way, I think everybody, would be more on the same page. And so I've been encouraged to do that. I can, come with a commissioner and we can sit down and talk about it. Because, yeah, the issues that you're talking about, there was something too about, that's gonna be added for tomorrow night's meeting. I know these are the steps that nobody's supposed to be walking on, but they said that they need to put, treads on them. And for that, but they said there are people who walk up and down those steps. And so if somebody slips and falls, we're gonna get sued. So,
I'll do it for 20.
okay, yeah, yeah. But anyway, it's more like, sitting down and talking to everybody, because otherwise, I feel like, again, those lines of communication aren't up and they should be up. Because again, you feel that when you walk in the building, you're like, oh gosh, look at this.
Yeah.
And I get it. And, right,
And I think I shared with you, the Supreme Court came for an oral argument last year and they said, well, we want to come tour your courthouse. And I said, we're not interested in that. We don't want you to come see it because it's embarrassing.
right, yeah,
So,
yeah.
you hate to say that, but I mean, and you want to talk about a building that gets visited the most in the county. It's right across the street, right over there. I mean,
Yeah.
the number of people that come through that door
Mm-hmm.
on a weekly basis, it's a big number. So,
When the steps don't lead to a point of access to the courthouse, my main concern is when he says 6 months for the elevator. We had 80 jurors here for a trial last Tuesday. And when you're trying to have 80 jurors go up 3 flights of stairs, I don't know how we manage for 6 months. And so that's my major concern, is that we fix the elevator, because you have folks that have disabilities that have had, impediments to taking 3 flights of stairs or 1 flight of stairs. And, denying access to areas of the courthouse is something I'd like to see remedied immediately. I know you feel the same way, Greg, because we talked about it this morning.
Yeah, I agree, and Mr. Middlesworth's supposed to be at the meeting tomorrow night, and again, anything that can be done to make that happen quicker, I certainly agree with. We definitely need to do that. Yeah, I'm not there every day. I might be there once a week, something like that, but yeah, it's taxing on everyone.
less caution tape. I'm in favor of less caution tape.
Want to add one more thing. It's kind of separate. I don't know if you guys know, but Greg has really immersed himself in learning about the criminal justice system with the issues of the jail, and he's spent so much time compiling data and reports. It's pretty remarkable. Of course, I see him as their attorney. But Greg, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I've been in county government for almost 30 years, but you have a council right now that is willing to listen to innovative ideas, some community corrections, probation. If you have solutions which will not only help people, but help reduce jail overcrowding, I think you've got an open ear for funding. It used to always be in the past, just don't even ask because you're not gonna get the money. But I don't think that's the case now. Is that fair to say, Greg?
I would certainly say though, that would be the case, and again, I applaud the sheriff. We took money out of the, basically funding to send people out of county for the pretrial home detention program, because the hope is that's gonna alleviate some of that issue. So it's kind of one of those where we've certainly spent some money in order to try and save some money, the referee court being another example. And sometimes you have to spend a little to save it. And again, though, it should make us all better. And again, we're trying to improve the community, trying to get those recidivism rates down. And again, if we can do that, then it kind of works people out of a job. Did I say that? No, probably not gonna happen, but yeah, so thank you, David. Appreciate that.
All right, the next agenda item is judges. We'll start with Judge Meeks. Judge Meeks, do you have?
I don't have anything. The only thing I would just to add to some of this jail discussion and so forth, is I haven't seen anything in any of the plans that would take into consideration juvenile housing. So as the court exercising juvenile jurisdiction, I really think that I'd like to see that. So the county is spending a lot of money housing juveniles elsewhere too. In fact, it would almost rival the amount you're spending on overcrowding the adult inmates or sending the overcrowded adult inmates out. So one night for a juvenile elsewhere is the same as 10 or 11 nights for an adult. So that racks up pretty quickly. So, but anyways, we can
Yeah.
have that discussion another time, but
Yeah, we can,
I'd like to.
right, because that's the other thing, is if we don't wanna do adults over there, then it would be rehabbing that facility to put juveniles back in that facility. Could certainly be done as well.
Yeah.
So, again, it's worthy of discussion.
I've said, 12 to 15 beds. That's all I think we need. I mean, I know that facility was built with the idea of housing other counties' juveniles and making a profit and all that. I'm not interested in making a profit.
No.
But I'd like to see, a dozen or 15 beds here locally, for Grant County juveniles. So,
And that was something that had been discussed with BW, and what they were gonna do is just basically add on a whole nother area to it, and it was gonna be in the realm of $5 to $7 million, something like that. And so we can certainly go back and revisit that. Yeah.
thanks, Craig. I appreciate it. But no, I don't have anything else, Judge McPhail. Thank you.
Scott?
I guess I'd add that the mental health court program that we started last year is up to 8 active participants. We'll soon be over 10, being pretty selective about who we take. And next Friday, a week from this Friday, we'll have our first graduate. So we're proud of that.
So that's great. Just Mr.
We just had our graduation for drug court, so we graduated 10 from our drug court program. We got a capacity of 70, so we have 60 now, but we have a waiting list, and we're starting to fill that waiting list. We should be back up to 70 again by the end of June. And then we've got 10 currently in our vet court program, and we're full. And it's going to be a minute before we have a graduation there, because our everybody, the highest people are in is the third phase, but we'll probably have several that will graduate like in the November timeframe. We did add a graduation for drug court, so now we have 3 graduations a year, and so we're graduating them a little bit more frequently. And our graduating classes tend to be what, 10 or 12, right, Andrew? Yeah.
The only thing I would add is just to highlight the versatility of our referee court. We're holding as many hearings as we possibly can on the ground floor. It's awfully convenient at this time to have 2 courtrooms on the ground floor. And so any other judges, any other reason to use our referee court, please feel free to use the referee court because its versatility has never been more significant and profound than right now, because we're holding as many hearings as we possibly can down ground floor to accommodate disabilities, or we just don't want to deny access to any areas of the courthouse. So we're holding as many hearings as possibly can on the ground floor. Is there anything else that we need? It says state JRAC. Just Mr. Did you?
Nothing to report really at this point, so.
All right. Any other business or concerns before we close the meeting? I think we're pretty close to a little bit over an hour. Nice to stay on an hour, but a little bit over. Any other business or other concerns? All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Swift.